I know we've brought this up many times in the past, but this is just such an example of it, and I have to just get it out there so I feel like I'm not the crazy one. America is not, as the great political philosopher Darkside Phil would put it, a serious adult country. It just isn't. The people who run it are children. They're not serious. They're immensely stupid or prideful or petty. It's shocking just how bad America's leadership is. And not just their leadership, but their journalists, their think tanks. All these people are they're fucked. I don't know if it's drugs, if it's hormones in the water, if it's, I don't know what it is, but America is led by a gang of just, Anyway, so what am I talking about? Why do I even bring this up? Well, we are facing in the Middle East a cataclysmic war. Now, this war is cataclysmic for a number of different reasons, all of which may trigger independently. And we'll get into those in a second. And, like, are people talking about that? They're like, no, we have to talk about Jan 6th. Some boomers decided to riot. It was the worst thing in human history. It was worse than the Holocaust. It was worse than 9/11. It was worse than the Armenian genocide. Some people rioted and broke a couple windows in the Capitol building. It's like, well, what about like the multiple, what about Ukraine? What about Putin threatening to use nuclear weapons? No, I don't care about that. All I care about is January 6th and the right to kill babies. And that's it. And letting Israel do whatever it wants. That is the number 3 issue. And nothing else matters. And that is the entire focus of the American elite and political class is those things. So why do I say the war in the Middle East is cataclysmic? Okay. So first and foremost, obvious thing we have to address, Israel has atomics. Israel has atomic weapons, and I don't think they're afraid to use them. How many they have, how powerful they are, I don't know. But it is not beyond the pale that at some point Israel might just say fuck it and start tossing atomics out there. I don't know if it's going to hit Tehran or Gaza or the West Bank, or I get that would be stupid because the fallout would hit them, but I don't know. Netanyahu he's not crazy, but he'd do something like that. Or maybe Ben Gvir would do it behind his back or something like that. Maybe the Jewish Power Party would do it. But yeah, you have that thing, and that's quite possible. And I think that's one of the reasons why Iran's pulled its punches so much. Because if it ever starts to win against Israel, whatever that would mean, Israel could just pull out atomics and just flip the game board over. And then Russia's going to get pulled in, and China's going to get pulled in, and the U.S. will get pulled in. I mean, I think it's almost certain that the U.S. will defend Israel using nuclear weapons. And if Iran tries to fire back after they get nuked, then America will declare total war on Iran for I don't know, scratching the paint on one fire hydrant in Israel. But there's that. And that's quite possible now, because I think as the last round of ballistic missiles showed us, it is possible for Iran to overwhelm the Iron Dome system. We don't even know how many interceptor missiles they have left. It's quite possible that between Hezbollah, Hamas, and these 2 missile strikes, Israel's stockpile has been heavily depleted. I don't know how many more of these they can stop. Iran certainly has more than 200 missiles. Hezbollah does too. They could just get Hezbollah and the Houthis and Iran and friends together could launch thousands or tens of thousands of missiles, completely overwhelm the Iron Dome system, and just devastate Israel's infrastructure. I mean, is that a stretch? Maybe, but they can definitely do some serious damage. I think the most recent strike proved it. Granted, I think most of them were shot down, but once again, to shoot down one ballistic missile, you have to fire at least 2 interceptors. And Iran can produce ballistic missiles, I believe, at least faster than they can produce interceptors. So, and regardless, it's costing billions of dollars. billions of dollars to shoot these things down. So the point is there is a potential, Iran has the potential to make Israel feel like its existence is threatened, or to do severe damage to it, perhaps to the point where Israel decides to just use atomics. Now this is probably not going to happen, but Netanyahu wants it to happen, and he's been pushing for it. And at this point in time, we don't even know what could happen. Like, could Netanyahu assassinate Khamenei? That's quite plausible at this point in time. Could he assassinate the head of Lebanon, like the prime minister or president of Lebanon? Could he assassinate Erdogan? Like, who even knows what the next step that Bibi is going to pull at this point in time? We had the pager thing, like maybe the electric toothbrushes have the C4 in it, but we have two power sides that have the power to severely hurt each other, who hate each other, and one side is led by a guy who wants total war. So that's number one. That's just the possibility of nuclear weapons being used. Number two, and what's more plausible, is the oil question. Now, Iran has stated that if things keep escalating, they are going to cut off the Persian Gulf, the Straits of Hormuz. America thinks they can just force it open again. I don't know if that's even really possible, to be honest. Iran, I think, has a substantial number of anti-ship missiles. Iran's a pretty big country, and it's pretty mountainous. I'm not sure what it's like in the southeast, but it's not like dealing with Iraq or Syria or something like that. These are people with weapons who can shoot back. I mean, the U.S. is going to have to risk some of its capital ships, at least somewhat, in my understanding. And what are the odds that the Russians wouldn't give them hypersonic anti-ship missiles? That's definitely possible. Especially if the U.S. goes ahead with this whole long-range missile strikes from inside of Ukraine. Russia will probably see that as fair game. But if they shut the Straits of Hormuz, I don't know if it's a majority of the world's oil, but it's a lot of the world's oil. It's just going to be completely shut off. And that is where I think the real risk of a cataclysm comes, wherein oil prices are going to go through the roof. Global supply chains are already on life support post-COVID. Can you imagine if the Persian Gulf oil gets cut off? Even if they're able to force it open again, Iran may just decide to go for broke and just blow up a bunch of the ports and a bunch of the oil refineries and just render it inoperable as like a final fuck you. And China gets, to my understanding, a lot of its oil from Iran. So China's going to get involved. Israel has also said that they're considering just blowing up Iran's oil infrastructure, which once again is quite plausible. Now, that's going to probably, I don't know if it's going to bring China and Russia in, but that is going to have a devastating impact on global oil prices. It's going to be a massive shit show. I don't know. We also have the risk of political revolution, I would say, in Jordan and Egypt and a couple other Arab countries because they keep backing Israel despite all the shit that they're pulling. So we have both sides are willing and able to destroy the global economy and shut down global energy infrastructure and drive the price of oil way up. One side at least has access to nuclear weapons. The Iranians might decide to go for broke. Maybe they even have nuclear weapons already. And get them and then start using them. And we just get into this situation. And then once again, you still have Russia and China, and they might get involved if it looks like Iran's going to get wiped out. And it's scary because I feel like if this is during the Cold War, as much of Israel shills as the government was, the U.S. government was back there. I forget if it was I think Nixon told the Israelis to stop, or something like that. If this was Eisenhower or Nixon or Kennedy or someone, I'm pretty confident that this wouldn't have happened, or they would be stopping here. Like, I saw an interview with Joe, and he's like, "Oh, Netanyahu won't do what I tell him to do. I can't. It's too hard." I'm like, dude, you're the fucking president of the United States. You fund his fucking country. His country is in a financial black hole at the moment. The only reason it's not basically in default at this point is because you threatened the IMF and the rating agencies to prevent it. Israel's war economy is a disaster. You're just giving them money to prop it up. You could just say no, just stop. Like, the thing I heard, the rumor, which I'm going to treat as 100% confirmed, because it was it was not from an anonymous source. It was from somebody who would actually have knowledge. So I'm going to treat that as unconfirmed, but I asked my anonymous source. So the foreign minister of Lebanon said that Nasrallah, Netanyahu, and America had actually come to a ceasefire agreement. And Nasrallah had let his guard down, and then Netanyahu blew him up then. And it was a fake ceasefire agreement to lure him out of hiding or to lessen his security restrictions. So I don't know if that's true or not, but if that is true, that's like the shit that gets you in the lowest circle of hell. Violating a fake peace treaty. But that's what we're dealing with, and Biden's just like, "Oh, I can't do anything. Blinken, you just deal with it. Stone Cold Lloyd Austin, you just deal with it. Jake the Snake Sullivan, just deal with it." And this collection of retards who don't even aren't on the same page. They don't even seem to talk to each other. There's no one. Biden's complaining that no one's listening to him, that Netanyahu is just mogging him. And at a certain level, I kind of have to respect the chutzpah. I kind of have to respect the Netanyahu life swagger, the Sigma male or the alpha male swagger of just Biden being like, "Could you not do this?" and him just telling Biden to suck his circumcised dick, and Biden just doing it, and everybody trying to reel him in and just going, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. Make me stop. And then they just all back down and grovel before him. He just shows up and mogs them. I kind of have to respect that on a certain level. Netanyahu is grossly irresponsible and a really bad dude, but he's not a retarded pussy like Biden or Blinken or any of these assholes who lead it. But no, we're like I said, and those are just a couple ways that this whole thing can escalate. And then Yahoo might just decide to flip the game board over and do something else crazy, or violate some other norm. Maybe he'll leak that Nasrallah and him had come to a peace treaty as a way of trying to provoke Iran. Maybe he'll do his thing where he hits the Iranian nuclear program and it's going to cause fallout, and we're going to have Chernobyl 2.0, and then America's obviously going to go and defend it. But that's where we are at the moment. I'm just going to say we're fucked. We have Darkside Brandon standing between us and maybe not nuclear war, but a global energy crisis. We could have multiple global financial crises, and the only man who can stop it is Darkside Brandon. Is a dude who takes his nap at 6 p.m. and can't even form sentences, and who's being run by Tony Blinken. I think that he met with the Chinese, and the Chinese told him to fuck off, and they said, I think the Chinese basically told him that he was the worst diplomat they ever met, and that they hated him, and that every single thing he's done has pissed them off. So you have that dude, and you have a power struggle between him and Stone Cold Lloyd Austin. It's just these people are not serious. And the fact that you have not serious people leading the world's only global superpower, backing an out-of-control rogue nation that has shown no regard for very basic principles of civilization and diplomacy, is a scary place. And I mean, once again, Is there anything Israel could do that would cost its support from the U.S.? If they just decided to implement the final solution to the Palestinian question and just imposed a widespread famine, if they just started executing them en masse, if they used chemical weapons, I don't think it would. I honestly don't know if there is anything Israel could do that would cost it U.S. support. And that's the situation we're in. And that unconditional support is being wielded by a dude who has no limits as to what he will do. So that's where we are. Maybe this will all work out because nothing ever happens. Maybe the adults in the room, the fact that we're relying on Hezbollah and Iran to be the adults is not a good place. Like, if you had have told me that 20 years ago, that we have to rely on the maturity and restraint of both those groups. And I mean, they killed the leader of Hezbollah, who was at least somewhat pragmatic, and replaced him with someone more radical. So I guess they're trying to deal with that as well. But no, we're just fucked. I don't know what else to say.